Okay, and we're live. So we've just been having some technical difficulties that we're working through. Uh, we wanted to get started earlier, but there was just a bunch of volume issues. So I'm just kind of doing another test here just to make sure everything is going smoothly. So just gonna get you to say something.
Okay, I'm testing it. Is that all you need? Can you
Yeah,
hear
that
me?
should be good. It's
Okay.
um 1 second. Hmm. Just just waiting here because it's saying live stream offline, but it's saying that we're online. So I'm just going to wait just a second here. Now it's saying that the live stream's offline, but we are online, saying that we're live.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that will disappear here soon. So just let me just test something quickly. These technical difficulties are always so much fun.
Boy, are they ever.
Mhm. Hmm. Just oh, this is just I'm not sure if it's working or not. I think it is. I think we're good now.
Okay.
Yep, we're good. It's all good. All right. So, sorry about that. We just had a million problems that we just had to work through, but finally
Perfect
we got
storm.
yeah. So, so we went to see the Joker, but we didn't go see it together, so we haven't yet discussed about whether or our thoughts together. And so this is a spoiler review. So I'm just I put that in the title there. So I'm just gonna let you go ahead and do the recap of the movie.
Okay. Okay. So basically, it's the Joker, and it is about the person who became the Joker. Um, his name was Arthur Fleck, and he's a man that's somewhat disturbed. In the beginning of the movie, you definitely get that feel. And he lives with his mother, who is played by Frances Conroy. And you might remember her from American Horror Story, also Stephen King's The Mist, the series. She plays in those, and she's a very creepy woman. So she definitely fit the part. Uh, Joaquin Phoenix plays Arthur Fleck, and he is he sees himself as a comedian, um, and he just laughs. He has a condition or something where he just laughs uncontrollably. You sort of see the Joker in him at this particular point, very early on in the movie, and and but you don't realize just how disturbed he is until until it moves on. And now, mind you, I got to tell you, like, I really don't like movies that are superhero movies. I just tend to
Beg to
not.
differ.
Yeah, I just tend not to like them. And if I don't know if you know the name Martin Scorsese,
Yeah.
who is probably one of the greatest directors of all time. And he basically said that these superhero movies are not cinema. They are put together they're just a roller coaster ride because they're put together like roller coasters. They fit they're like micromanaged. Yes, they have directors and whatever, but they're micromanaged by a group of people who put it all together and create something that a lot of people are going to love to see. They're big budget, they're you know, this is not one of those. This movie is a cinema. This is cinema.
Yeah,
It's art.
it is.
Okay, and the acting is superb. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is I mean, he's a great actor anyway, but I honestly feel like this was his greatest performance.
Like he's a method actor, and on I haven't seen a lot of his other performances, like other movies that I can think of at the moment.
I've seen them all.
Like, and I'm sure that I probably have, but like I this is one of those when he takes on a role, he just like he
Oh,
is the role.
he became it,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
in this movie, I mean, it was like ballet, a lot of it.
yeah. It was.
You
It
know,
was.
theater. It was magnificent to watch him. And but anyway, the movie takes you through that until he becomes the Joker.
Yeah, exactly. And what I like, it's one of those movies like I wasn't sure at first whether or not I was going to go see it just because I was like, oh God, I was hearing all these mixed reviews on it, to people saying that it's just really depressing and not and just somebody just getting like be pretty much tortured the whole movie and just like depressing to watch. And I was just like, oh God, do I really want to go sit through that? But when I saw it, I was like, well, you know what? Like, this is kind of a story that needed to be told, not just for the fact that because of the story of this Joker, but I kind of found a lot of people can relate to this because of mental illness and how it's treated. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, and let's touch on that because there was a lot of hype about this movie in regards to violence.
yeah,
Okay, and where even guards and police were dispatched to certain areas, and some places had guards that were looking after the theater that where it was being played as security. And so and when I watch this, I've seen movies that are like 100 times more violent than this one is.
yeah,
Okay, and and
absolutely.
and so but here's the difference between this one and those movies. Those movies were there was violence perpetrated against just ordinary people or poor people or whatever. This is violence against the rich.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, they didn't want that.
No.
All right. So, because they thought that, I mean, the movie is about a movement that's that goes against the rich, right? They were going, they were killing, you know, people who happened to be very well off.
Hmm.
And so you start to get this feeling, you feel for the Joker,
Oh, you do. I almost
you know?
cried in the theater, and you know how hard that is for me.
Yeah. And I
Cause
mean, he was a very disturbed person. I mean,
oh
he's
yeah,
he's a maniac, but you actually feel like you can relate to how he feels, how he didn't want to be made fun of, he didn't want to be ridiculed, he did, and so he did the things that he did for that reason. I mean, even those first few people that he killed, I mean, they kind of had it coming,
they
but
did.
you know.
Well, yeah, yeah, I agree. And the thing is with this movie, it's one of those things where for some reason they make you somehow manage to root for the bad guy when he's, you know what I mean? Like with telling his story, because Joker has always been. I mean, if you read the comics and even watch all of the movies about the Joker,
Yeah.
he's just he. so horrible, but you don't even know how bad he is unless you read the comics. I mean, him and when he teams up with Harley Quinn in the comics, I
Yes.
mean, they do some pretty messed up stuff that's not even in the movies or anything like that.
Right.
So he's this horrible person, but yet they managed to make it so that I felt just terrible for for him, especially with his mom, the whole thing that
Hmm.
happened with with his mother, and this in the story between him and that woman that he thought he was in a relationship with, that was the
Yes,
legitimate. That was like,
that surprised me.
I
I didn't see that coming, to be honest with you. Right?
I wonder if
I
that can
couldn't have called
happen.
that.
Can
I don't know. I imagine it could. I mean, there
is
are
it
people out
closest
there.
to that level?
Well, like people have stalkers and stuff, and I think that some of those stalkers feel like they're in a relationship with that person, right?
Mm.
And so he, in a sense, well, he wasn't really a stalker as such, but he he had this thing in his head where he was in a relationship with this woman, and she was like she had been nice to him. She wasn't, a bad person. Um, and the dwarf even,
Oh, I know. He was just
right?
like that part got to me because he just stabs this guy brutally, and
Oh, it
then
was horrible.
that guy was standing behind like, oh my God, because he was like, I'm gonna die. That's like you just knew that he was gonna die, and he's like, I'm not gonna hurt you, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. Go.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
Yeah.
will you unlock the door? And he's like, oh, like nothing happened. It's just, it was such a funny part. Like, oh my
But well, the
God.
thing was, it was like, well, that was the most violent scene in the movie, I believe, and if memory serves me correct, I mean, I just saw it last night, but I think that was probably the most violent, like vividly violent part in the movie, and um, it did kind of take me aback,
Oh, and I
but
felt so bad though. I felt so bad for him because there was some parts there. The part when he was watching TV and the guy that he looked up to, the what was the show
was
called that he watched, Murray something or
yeah,
something,
yeah,
and they made fun of his performance on there, and that crushed me. That's when I get really sad because he seemed to be like lifting out of like lift like feeling better. Seemed like every time something that made him happy would start to feel happy, he'd get broken down by something. You know what I mean?
yes,
Like just taken down.
yes. And then when he found the truth out about his mother and everything, that brought him down, and
Yeah,
it
he
was
never went back from that.
no, and that fixed him. But nevertheless, I mean, the quality of the movie, like when you're watching this, like it's not done like any other, like uh, say Marvel or whatever, DC or whatever. It's not done like that. It's definitely um, uh, a piece of art.
Yeah, and it's just its own style. It's totally different than anything I've ever seen before. Even just the like this music, and because really there was no time, it didn't tell you what year this was taking place in, but somehow you knew by the sounds and just the look of like the
The
music
cars and
and what was on, that it never gave you a time frame of when this was taking place of and how, you didn't know anything really about his age. And I felt so there were so many parts in the movie I was like, just like, how is he acting this? He like, and he changed his whole appearance. I mean, did you see after the part when he got beat up by those guys the first time, and
yes,
the first scene, and then the bruises that were all over his body, or
yes,
remember that, how,
yes.
and you saw his, like, Joaquin Phoenix, the bones sticking out of him, like
Well,
he,
he must have lost an awful lot of weight for this movie.
like, I can't even
Because
imagine.
he's not. I don't remember him ever being that thin, right? He had to have. I mean, his face was gaunt,
I
and
know.
and I know they can do a lot with makeup and everything, but you can't really do a whole lot with a body because, I mean, you could see his spinal cord and everything, like you could see it, and he put himself through some rigorous stuff to take that much weight off. I mean, he was really incredibly thin, and But yeah, I mean, you know, his performance, like this theatric type of performance, even when he went as a guest on that on this Murray show, and
That part was intense. That was
it was
cool.
very intense. Yeah, and you know, but the he was so theatrical about the whole thing, you know, and he was definitely like putting on a show, and you could tell like when he was coming down the stairs there when the police were chasing him, and he was so like, you know, his hands in the air and doing this dance, and that was so typically Joker,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And he played it perfectly, and you know, I'd be willing to say he's probably the best Joker that I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, I never thought that I'd ever. Well, my favorite one was always Jack Nicholson,
Yeah.
and I know that Heath Ledger did a great one too. But I don't know, just for some reason, Jack Nicholson just had like a special place in my heart.
Well, it's Jack Nicholson, but
Yeah, and but this guy's just amazing. Like in this, he just took it to a whole other level because he played the Joker before he was like that, like the Joker that we know. There's never been a real origin story for the Joker, and that's what this comes from. They wanted to,
Yeah, I saw one. It was in a Batman movie. It was in one of the Batman movies, and it talked about nuclear stuff and how this nuclear waste and how the Joker got put down in there, and it forever put this smile on his face,
hmm
and so he used this makeup and stuff. It was kind of a dumb origin of the Joker, right? It was not one. I mean, I remember as a kid watching Batman, right? The little TV show is kind of campy and everything, but you know what? That was a great show, and you know, it's kind of class. It's a classic, right? And you know,
The
bam,
Batman. What one was that? Batman and Robin, or
it was Batman and Robin, but
yeah.
it was, I mean, it was called Batman, and it was just basically, you know, like a Saturday morning show that you watched of Batman and Robin, and it was the original Batman, and like I say, I can remember watching that as a kid, and the Joker in that was fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes of it, and I really like that Joker.
That Joker was
I
fantastic.
like a silly, classy Joker. You know what I mean?
Yes,
That's what
and
Jack
and
Nicholson did.
yes, but this is a step beyond that.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, this was pure acting. It was just you went into his world in this.
hmm
You know, it was a fantastic movie, and I see people, you know, who say went to see it last night, okay, who have been posting on social media today, and they're going like, "Wow, what a movie!"
hmm
You know, it was a good movie. I will say that there was some parts in there, and that lasted a little bit long, and I was starting to get almost bored.
I know. I did too. There, like, there was some parts that could have been taken out, like, and deleted, like, to
Yeah.
make just it just took away a little. I don't want to ever be one like looking at the time during a movie, and there was
Yeah.
some times during this that was my only issues with that was that there was some parts that didn't really need they lingered a little bit too long on certain scenes I found.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
leading, but it wasn't really for a movie like a DC type of movie, and like any movie is usually over 2 hours long. This one I think was only like 2 hours on the mark.
Yes, it was. It
It
was, well, just a little slightly under, I think.
yeah.
And it was, I think it could have been a little bit shorter and got the same uh you know, oomph out of it.
hmm
I don't know, maybe not. But just an opinion.
Yeah, well,
And
movies are subjective, and like that's why I don't understand how people could watch this movie and think not like it. I mean, a part of me does, but I'm like, really? Like, how can this get only 60 some percent on Rotten Tomatoes from the critic score, and I think it's at the in the 80s for an audience score.
mhm.
Like that doesn't that blows my mind because I don't know though. Let's try and think of it. Let's think of the movie Joaquin Phoenix is not in it. all right, so say somebody else is playing the Joker, and I don't know if it would even be as good of a movie, with the way that it is, because I don't know if it was just his performance that did it or what, but he, like, I don't know, it was,
A younger Jack Nicholson could have done it.
oh yeah, he would have done a great job.
He could have done it.
He was
However,
so classy, and that's what
Joaquin
made him
Phoenix
funny.
was superb. Okay, and I never really saw that in him. Like I knew he was a good actor. I knew, but really like to be that flamboyant and you know
It was
it,
just,
it
it was different for, like, out of all the roles that Jack Nicholson has had, the Joker is something that's just was seemed out of his element, but yet he shined on it
yes,
for me anyway. But
yeah.
I don't, and people hate me. My husband thinks I'm nuts, but I just did not really. I was not really into Heath Ledger, so I found he tried too hard, and it for me just I don't know.
I wasn't into Heath Ledger's either, and I think that a lot of people just was because he died.
Yeah, and
You
for
know,
me, I found he tried too hard. He was like way too dark with it, and like I only saw that movie once, and normally I'll watch those things over and over. But and then there's another thing about this movie, The Joker. This movie, the only issue for me is that I don't think I'd ever watch it again because it doesn't really have rewatchability. Is that a word?
well, we'll say it is. Yeah. No, I wouldn't, but there's very few movies in like I've seen a lot of movies in my life, right? And there's very few movies that I can actually watch over again. There's like I say, I could count them probably on one hand, the movies that I could really enjoy watching over and over again.
I can always watch Guardians of the Galaxy like a billion times.
Hocus Pocus.
Oh my gosh, let's not get into that. Anyway, moving on.
but
No, but this one, seriously, like if I saw it on TV, I probably wouldn't watch it again just because I don't know, it just doesn't. And that's the thing. Most people will go to the theater multiple times to go see a movie, especially DC Marvel movies and stuff like that. And I hear a lot of people in their reviews saying that they wouldn't, it just doesn't have that re-watchable factor. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Because it's just kind of too depressing. And it is, it's depressing the whole way through. But I don't know. I kind of, like, I related to him a little, not really like, I'm not saying
Not
mine
like you had
was
something in
anywhere near
common.
that level, but what'd you say?
It's not like you have something in
No,
common, right?
little bit, little
Little
bit.
bit, little bit. Yeah.
No,
Don't test you, right?
no. Yeah, no. No. I just being somebody who just has anybody who has mental illness at all knows how hard it is. And when he said that he didn't even feel like he was visible, and when he killed somebody, he finally saw that he was visible, that he
Yeah,
wasn't invisible. He felt, but and
it's warped, very warped.
the script was like really well done.
A lot of these movies, it makes you wonder what kind of a person writes these things,
Hmm.
right? I have to wonder, right? Because I don't think that I could.
I know these stories are just genius. Especially, they seem to be getting better.
But some of them are sick. Like this one was kind of sick,
Yeah, this one was
right?
definitely kind of sick. I
Right?
You would have to have a little bit of a twisted mind to go there. But I mean, look at Stephen King. I mean, look what he can pull out all the time. I mean, I wonder what kind of mind he has.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's healthy. I
Like he writes the most genius horror movies of probably ever.
yeah, they have a simple message that gets to you, and so many people, are afraid of things now because of Stephen King. Like clowns,
Hmm.
right? He'll pick up on some little thing. Somebody had some phobia about that and then write a story. And then suddenly everybody's afraid of clowns.
Well,
And
I'm not afraid of clowns at all. That's why I wasn't scared when I went to see it. Both of them.
The book was scary.
I tried to get through the book. I got halfway through and I was just like, couldn't get through it. I couldn't. I just was scared. Clowns do nothing for me. For me.
Yeah. Well, you know how thick that book was. That's
Oh
a
my gosh.
that's a long
Thousand.
story.
How many? Over a
It's
thousand
it yeah,
pages.
it's a long story, and I read that out loud.
Yeah, you always do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you always read
And
it.
yeah, because Sheila would want to sit and knit and crochet and whatever, and so she'd get me just to read the story, and so I would, and read it out loud. So I'd read the whole darn thing, right? And she wouldn't want you to stop, so you'd end up reading like a quarter of a book,
That's like way too much.
right, out loud at one sitting, for
Oh,
hours and hours would go by,
yeah, I can
right?
remember having to like go turn up my music in my room while you guys were reading
Yeah.
a boring book. That like, oh.
You missed out.
Oh yeah, there's a couple things I want to. So when he in the part where he got called in to go to be on the show to put on the
Yes,
performance, what did you know what was gonna happen at that point,
I
or
did.
me too, me
I
too.
did because he was sort of feigning like he was going to kill himself,
Yeah.
right? He'd put the gun under his chin, and do this, and I thought there's no way, because we knew that he wouldn't, because there's a Joker later on, right? So you knew that he wasn't going to do that. So it had to be that he was going to kill the host of the show, right? And so it wasn't a surprise.
Mm.
It it was it was well done in the way how they let it go, in this knock knock and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, and
And
yeah,
and I'm like, okay, like he's
playing it.
being so coy, right? The smile on his face and how he turned his eyes and looked to the side,
Hmm.
and and then they said that's not funny and all this. He was so used to hearing that. That's not funny. And then finally, when he tells him off, you brought me here to do this, right?
Hmm.
Because you wanted to make fun of me and da da da, right? I don't know if he did. I honestly don't know if he did bring him there for that reason.
I don't know either. I kind of think that he might have, cause I
Yeah.
think he just something about him rubbed me the wrong way from
Oh yeah.
the moment that he kind of had that vision of him.
Yes.
Remember in the beginning when it showed him on the show and he's just kind of imagining that he's on there and
Yes.
um ever since that moment I was like something's going to go down with this guy during this show, like, and when he got the call say, after making fun of him on TV,
Hmm.
remember when he made fun of his performance and then he got the call to with it saying that
Yep.
okay, well you want I wasn't even sure if that was real. I was like, is this phone call real, or is he like, is this somebody playing a prank on him, or is he like joke, or is he imagining this? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't know. And then when he went there, I was like, okay, something, he's gonna kill somebody, or the host, or
Well,
everybody.
you were taken into his mind,
Yeah.
so it left you in certain scenes confused as to what was real and what was not, right? So you were kind of believing his confusion. I believed that he was having a relationship with that girl down the hall.
Oh, yeah, I believe that too.
Yeah, I totally believed it. So you were taken into his mind, so you believed it too,
Hmm.
right? So they were able to pull that off, and then all of a sudden, it's very a quick thing where you realize, oh no, he did not, and uh, and I don't even know uh, how that girl made out.
I know. I like she had a kid in there and he's just sitting in
Yes.
the apartment. Can you imagine that shock of that he would have gone through to be like like having she had no, but I wonder what pulled him out of that state of, I guess confronting her would have had to have pulled him out of that um, illusion.
Yeah.
But they would have had to have actually meet and have a conversation, and then that would have kind of made him clue in, like, oh God, like I'm delusional, just like his mom, because
Yeah.
like, and I just want to get to the end of the movie, the parts. So when he went to go get his folder, oh my
Yes.
God, that part was really rough for me, and how they could not release the information. And I was like, oh my God, that part stressed me out so much. Uh, just because I could kind of, I just felt like he needed to know. He needed to know exactly what was in there. And when they,
But I was left still not knowing if it was real or not. It because it seemed to see the movie was was against these rich people,
yeah,
right? And you know, did Thomas Wayne uh change that? Did he
he gives them
make
out.
yeah, did he make it so that there was an adoption? Did he do that? You know, there was all these questions that you couldn't answer. Now, he obviously believed what was in those folders,
Hmm.
or he came to, which is why he did what he did to his mother, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But but was it real? You know, was what he thought real? That these were all fake?
yeah. You don't know what was, because when he went to their house, the Wayne's house, and saw Bruce, the way that they treated him,
Yeah,
and when he got punched in the face by the the Wayne there. I can't remember his first name. Oh, well, Bruce Wayne's father.
Thomas,
Yeah,
Thomas.
Thomas Wayne.
Yeah,
And I was like, whoa, okay, that was like a real huge jump from just going from just to punching him for like just making an accusation. There was like a billion other ways he could have handled that, but it was like he
hmm
just wanted him to shut up, like like
yeah,
and not say anything. But yeah, I have no idea, because it didn't give any information, it didn't
because
show anything about.
even the security guards. Oh, so you're Penny's son,
Yeah,
right? And I thought, okay, so he knows who he is, right? She definitely did work there, and apparently she was crazy. And of course, then he was saying, what he asked the guy that he was getting the records from. So what does it take to get in here,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because in reality, he wanted help.
He did.
He
But
wanted
he was
help.
miserable.
He was.
He's like wanted all the. He was like, how many? He want. Remember the part when he was like asking about more medication, and she's like, well, you're
Yeah,
on 5, and he's like, well, I just want to stop feeling, you know, feeling bad, because he's just miserable. But I
yeah.
felt, yeah, and I just, that whole part though with who his actual father is, that bothers me, because I wish it had a shown more, because there isn't going to be, from what I'm hearing, there isn't going to be another part to this one. And it bothers me how they portrayed Thomas Wayne, cuz he's not a bad guy in in reality, well, in like comic book world, and on any other TV, on the TV shows and movies. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy that wants to help the city, and that's why
Yes.
Batman takes over, or Bruce Wayne takes over and becomes Batman to, continue trying to do the good work that his father was doing for the town. But now they let him to be a kind of a bad guy in this movie, and I didn't like that.
But I think that that's a trend anyway. You see, in Western movies, like in from the West, like say American movies in particular, excuse me, um, is that they the movies are made so that you are actually favoring the bad guy, okay, and the good guys are they're almost the villains. And whereas say like movies that are coming from Asian countries, okay, they don't. They don't do that. You are rooting for the good guy,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Here,
always.
you root for the bad guy. It's like that Bonnie and Clyde thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's that American thing where you're like rooting for the gangster.
Yeah, that's because they usually make them usually funny and yeah, just like for some reason they somehow make them likable in a way, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Because there's certain shows that once the bad guy that you think that you hate is gone, all of a sudden it's boring. Like you know what I mean? Like once
yeah.
certain villains get killed off, like it happened in Game of Thrones with Joffrey. Like
Oh,
I hated
jeepers.
him more than anything. Like when he was gone, I was like, whoa, this is a huge loss for the show. It's now like gotten like boring.
Well, of course, they just brought in what's his face there with it. Oh, isn't that terrible?
Yeah, but
It
no
had the
one was
Battle of
as
the
evil as
Bastards.
that. No one was as evil as Joffrey
Oh
was.
boy, he was pretty bad.
He can't
He
even
he
work
he he,
now.
he he was pretty bad. Oh no, he can't. He can't. I mean, I'd be probably one person if I ever met him in real person, in person. I might like to spit in his face. I
You
really
can't
don't
be that.
like.
Play that
I
down.
don't like I don't like that guy, right? And apparently he's not like this not a bad guy at all, but I'd be willing to bet that he was a rotten little bugger, right? And that in real life, because how can you just play this?
Yeah.
Holy God, you know? He was horrible, but
Yeah.
but nevertheless, I mean, whereas the Joker, I'd be like, oh, hey, what's going on? You know?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and yet he's this monster, you know?
Oh yeah. I'm trying to remember now how the last scene went in the movie. I was
Oh,
gonna
he's in the hallway at the hospital because
Yeah,
he was saying, "How do I
that's
get in
right.
here?
He
How do
was
I get in here?" So he went there to deliberately do something so he could get in, put into a hospital where he could get help.
Yeah. And with the scene but a little bit before that when he was in the going up through in the police car and there was all the people with the masks on and just
Yeah.
wrecking the town. Like I'm like and they would just like is this I don't know, I was like confused with what's going on there. I was like, is this some big huge gang that's just all like I've never
Well,
seen
it was that movement that he
yeah, and they were
created
all just
by
being
going after these rich people.
yeah.
Because remember those three guys on the train, okay, that were killed.
Yeah, that's right.
They were employees
Mhm.
of Thomas Wayne,
Mhm. Yeah, I got a
okay?
little
They
lost
had
there.
all kinds of money. They had all kinds of money,
Yeah.
all right? And they were picking on this woman, right? And he kind of
That's that
took
part.
up for her, Yeah, sitting there throwing French fries at her and stuff, and I'm like, really, But anyway, uh, so that's what was happening. He had created this movement. So you have all these people who are obviously going to be with him, right?
I never understood why he didn't just explain what happened in the first place was it was self-defense. Like that was one thing I never understood that why he didn't explain, but I guess maybe he wanted to be looked at as a bad guy. Like that was what he wanted. Cuz he could have easily gotten away with that. He could have just said,
I don't think it could have because he was known to be mentally ill.
that doesn't really matter if you're like I don't think does it? I guess there's
Oh, it kind of
there's
does. It kind of does. I mean, you're going to be automatically guilty. They're just going to automatically
because
think
he's
that.
not supposed to have a weapon.
Right.
Mm. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he would have gotten in trouble no matter what, whether it was
Yeah.
self-defense or not. That's just wrong. But those guys
See, you're
deserve
sticking
what they
up for
got.
him, right?
Those guys were like. So before we wrap this up, yeah, the last scene. So he obviously killed. I'm guessing he obviously killed that doctor. I'm not. Remember when he walked out with the blood on the footsteps on his footsteps there?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I'm guessing he killed the doctor because I'm not even sure why. What like It's just
Well,
crazy.
he escaped. Yeah.
He's just gone. This is because I think that they take. I think he's in Arkham Asylum, and that's one place in like one of the worst asylums you could possibly be in. Is Arkham Asylum has got the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
before we wrap this up, what would you rate it out of 10?
I would give it. I I would honestly give it a 9.
Yeah, yeah, I would give it. Yeah, I'm guessing. Oh man. Well,
And
you
I
know
don't know
what?
why I
The
even
only
took it down a point, other than it was just a bit depressing.
that was my problem. And yeah, it was just a little longer than it needed to be.
Yeah.
But Joaquin Phoenix's performance is the what saved everything in this movie. That could like he made it. He made the movie. Good thing they found him. Like they managed to cast the perfect person there. They got get
Oh yeah.
that was perfect casting. And I'm sad though. I'm really sad though if they don't come out with a second one. I heard this is just a one shot, one and done.
Yeah, it's a
All
standalone.
universe, no, not crossing over with the Batman that's coming out. I hate that name, the Batman. It's with that's coming out here with Robert Pattinson. Um,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
and
I
it's
heard that.
not
Yeah.
crossing over with any of the other DC movies, so we won't see him again.
I probably won't even watch that movie.
Oh, I'm gonna watch it. I'm looking forward to it just because there's a
Yeah.
bunch of good casting in it that I'm really looking forward to. Well, you know who Lenny Kravitz,
Yes.
his daughter Zoe
Yes.
Kravitz. She's gorgeous. And she's gonna be Catwoman,
Yeah. I
and
did see
who
that.
couldn't it
Yeah.
be? Have you seen Zoe Kravitz?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, she is beautiful. Perfect casting, and everybody else. They're go back and forth with Penguin. They haven't said who
Oh yes, or no, it was the Riddler. They were doing the Riddler.
they would. Yeah, they're having Riddler and Penguin. Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
And
both
they've
gonna
they've
be in it.
said who was playing it, and I can't remember now who was.
They
That-
did have oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Well, there was back and forth rumors about Seth Rogen and oh man, I'm drawing a blank.
The last person that played the Penguin, I believe, was Danny DeVito.
Well, my well, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, I
Than that.
know.
Like,
It was
come on,
perfection.
that's like
Yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
yeah. I think that was the last one that was the Penguin.
No one can do wait. Well, there was a guy. Did you ever watch Gotham?
No, I don't. No.
Um, well, there's a guy in who the guy who plays the Penguin on there is I at first I was like, no, this isn't gonna work, and then I was like, whoa, it's actually he pulls it off really well,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
but it's basically just kind of all of them when they're young, like Bruce Wayne is just a kid in the beginning, Catwoman's just a kid, and Poison Ivy, they're all just kids living, and they're in Gotham, and just all the things going on in the city, and then they just kind of grow up in the show. But
yeah.
in the last season, he becomes Batman.
Right
But
on.
anyway, we're gonna wrap this up now. So I'm going to let you go, and thank you so much for being on here. We're gonna be on here again on the 26th, just giving a
Hmm.
just ranting about movies and shows, just stuff that we like, and
Yeah,
yeah. So anyway, guys, thanks for being on. We'll talk to
no
you
problem.
soon.
Yeah, bye bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. I'm like I said, I won't be on tomorrow, but I will be on the day after tomorrow and ranting about movies and shows with Kevin, and he's going to be letting me know what he thinks of Agents of Shield, and I'm going to be letting him know what I think of the oh man, something Chronicles. Chronicles. Yeah, I always seem to forget that title. I don't know why. But anyway, I hope you guys like this review. Let me know what you guys think of this movie in the comments below. I like to hear your thoughts on the Joker, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye bye.